Have you ever looked at someone and wondered, how do they always seem to be 5 steps ahead? Whether in business, relationships, or life, some people don't just react to life's challenges. They anticipate them, dance around them, and turn obstacles into stepping stones. That isn't luck. It's a strategy. Strategic thinking is not reserved for elite boardrooms or ancient war rooms. It is a skill, a lens, a mindset that, once adopted, can radically alter the way you navigate the world. In a time when noise is mistaken for movement and speed is mistaken for progress, strategic thinking helps you slow down, zoom out, and make moves that truly matter. In this audiobook, you will learn how to think, not just act. You will begin to understand why some decisions lead to momentum while others drain energy. We will strip down common misconceptions, explore the psychology of a strategic mind, and walk you through timeless principles that leaders, creators, and visionaries use to outsmart challenges and win on their own terms. Welcome to today's audiobook, The Art of Strategic Thinking and Outsmart Any Challenge and Win Big in Life, written by Beneath the Book. Let us begin. Chapter 1. What is strategic thinking? Imagine a woman running a small business in a competitive town. Every time a new competitor opens next door, she slashes her prices. She acts fast, but she doesn't think long. Meanwhile, another business owner on the next street studies the market, diversifies his offerings, and builds a loyal customer base. A year later, the first woman burns out. The second man thrives. Why? Because one was tactical. The other was strategic. Strategic thinking is the art of making intentional, future-oriented decisions. It's about understanding that every choice has a ripple effect, and those ripples shape your path far beyond the present moment. Tactics are short-term actions. Strategy is the long-term direction. Many people spend their lives reacting, putting out fires, managing crises, following trends. Strategic thinkers pause, analyze, and plan. They focus on what matters most, not just what's loudest or most urgent. Being strategic means thinking 2, 5, or even 10 steps ahead. It's asking, what are the consequences of this decision in the next phase of my life or career? And, is this aligned with my overall goal, or am I chasing distractions? In the real world, strategic thinking is what helps individuals build sustainable businesses, foster resilient relationships, and grow into leadership roles. It is not about being the smartest in the room, but about being the most focused and intentional. So I put it to you to stop asking, what should I do next? Start asking, what is the smartest path forward over the long term? If you want to stop living on autopilot and start crafting a life of intentional impact, keep listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment below sharing your biggest takeaway. In the next chapter, we explore the mind of a strategic thinker and the psychological tools that make them different. Chapter 2. The Mind of a Strategic Thinker. In a crowded room of noise and urgency, the strategic thinker is the one who sits back, observes, and speaks last. They are not slow. They are precise. They understand that clarity comes before action. Imagine a man in a leadership position facing a team crisis. Most people rush to assign blame or fix things fast. But he listens. He gathers facts. He anticipates emotional reactions. Then and only then does he make a move. The result? A calm resolution and a stronger team bond. The mind of a strategic thinker functions with a unique blend of traits: foresight, patience, curiosity, and objectivity. Each trait acts as a mental muscle that strengthens over time. Foresight enables them to anticipate future challenges and prepare for them. They don't just look at what is, they ask what might be. Patience helps them resist the temptation to react prematurely. They know that some problems solve themselves when given time, while others require deeper analysis. Curiosity drives them to explore alternatives, ask better questions, and challenge conventional wisdom. And objectivity allows them to remove personal bias and ego from the equation, which leads to clearer, fairer, and more effective decisions. These traits are not just for CEOs or global leaders. Anyone can learn them. Strategic thinking begins when you commit to seeing your life not as a collection of problems, but as a system of moving parts that respond to deliberate choices. Real-world example. A group of people in a tech startup faced a sharp decline in performance. Instead of blaming the product or the market, they stepped back and asked, "What changed internally?" That question led to a breakthrough in team structure and communication. So you should know that your reaction is not your responsibility. Your response is. Ready to sharpen your thinking? Reflect on which of these traits you currently possess, and which you need to develop. Then subscribe, like, and comment below with what resonated most. In the next chapter, we explore one of the most powerful shifts you can make, learning to delay gratification and think in decades, not just days. Stay with me. Chapter 3. Short-term versus long-term thinking. A woman is offered a promotion. It comes with a higher salary but doubles her working hours. Everyone congratulates her, but she hesitates. He thinks not about next month but 5 years from now. Will this move bring her closer to the life she truly wants? This is long-term thinking in action. Strategic thinkers train their minds to zoom out. They are not seduced by instant wins. They are guided by lasting impact. Short-term thinking is like chasing quick dopamine hits, temporary relief or satisfaction that often leads to deeper frustration later. It is driven by fear, ego, and urgency. Long-term thinking, on the other hand, is a strategic pause. It evaluates not just what feels good now, but what builds value, peace, and growth over time. Thinking long-term forces you to align your daily decisions with your higher goals. It gives you the discipline to say no to distractions and yes to what truly matters, even if it's slower, less glamorous, or more uncertain in the short term. For example, two groups of people launch similar ventures. One pours energy into viral marketing and quick wins. The other invests in customer experience and trust. A year later, the first fades. The second becomes a household name. Strategic thinkers don't chase trends. They build a legacy. Just because it feels good now doesn't mean it serves you later. Real growth lives beyond convenience. Begin asking yourself, is this choice building the life I want to live 5 years from now? If not, reconsider it. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. The next chapter explores the power of vision, the guiding light that keeps all strategic thinking aligned. Chapter 4. The Power of Vision. Every great achievement begins with a vision, a mental image of a future that does not yet exist. Without vision, even the most talented minds get lost in distraction. Vision gives your life structure. It gives your strategy a destination. Strategic thinkers don't just react to life, they project into it. They have a strong internal compass, one anchored in purpose. They know why they want something before plotting how to get it. Vision isn't vague hope. It's a deeply rooted picture of your desired outcome. This clarity shapes your focus, protects your energy, and helps you distinguish between a good opportunity and a distracting detour. Without vision, you'll chase everything and accomplish nothing. For example, a young woman working in a chaotic environment had one clear goal: to create sustainable change in her industry. Though her current role was small, she envisioned building a model others could replicate. While her peers scrambled for quick promotions, she took slower but more intentional steps, learning systems, building relationships, and documenting problems others ignored. Years later, while many peers were burned out or stuck in mid-level roles, she had developed a strategic solution that attracted global attention. All because she saw the end before she began. Most people wait for motivation. Strategic thinkers work from vision. Motivation fluctuates. Vision anchors you. Ask yourself, do I know why I want what I want? What does my long game look like? Pause and journal about your vision. Not the title, the car, or the money, but the impact, the feeling, and the legacy. And if this resonates, remember to subscribe, like, and drop a comment sharing your vision. Then continue to the next chapter where we talk about consequence thinking, a superpower that will change how you evaluate every decision. Chapter 5. Thinking in second and third order consequences. Most people stop at step 1. They act on what feels right now and regret it later. Strategic thinkers play the long game. They consider the second and third order effects of every move they make. First order thinking is immediate and emotional. Second order thinking asks, what happens next? Third order thinking asks, and then what? This layered thinking separates the impulsive from the intentional. It forces you to see beyond temporary benefit and measure long-term cost or reward. For example, a man was offered a high-paying job that required relocating quickly. At first glance it looked like a breakthrough. But he paused. What would the stress of relocation do to his family? How would a demanding schedule affect his health and relationships? By applying second and third order thinking, he turned it down and instead built a consultancy in his current location. 3 years later, his income surpassed what the job offered, and his peace remained intact. Not every shiny opportunity is strategic. Sometimes what looks like a step forward is a trap in disguise. So the next time you face a big decision, ask yourself, what happens next if I do this? And what happens after that? Think beyond today. If this insight is helping you grow, subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Share a time when deeper thinking saved you. Then let's continue to Chapter 6, where we explore mental models that help you think like a strategist in any situation. Chapter 6, Mental Models for Smarter Thinking. Smart people make poor decisions every day. Intelligence isn't always the issue. It's the lens through which we see problems that shapes our outcomes. Mental models give you that lens. Mental models are tools. They are ways of thinking that help you analyze situations better. Strategic thinkers don't rely on instinct alone. They use tested frameworks to process information. Let's look at a few. First principles thinking breaks problems down to their basic truths, ignoring assumptions. Inversion flips the question, how can I succeed? Becomes, how can I avoid failure? The 80-20 rule, Pareto principle, helps you focus on the small efforts that bring the biggest results. Opportunity cost thinking reminds you that every yes comes with a no to something else. These are just a few of the lenses great leaders and innovators use, not by luck but by design. For example, a group of people trying to solve a persistent business problem kept applying traditional fixes. But one member used first principles thinking. She stripped the problem down to its core, questioning why the system worked that way in the first place. Her approach revealed that the issue wasn't with people. It was with the outdated design of the system. That breakthrough saved millions because she didn't just react. She reframed. Mental models aren't just for philosophers or CEOs. They are for anyone who wants to make fewer emotional decisions and more accurate moves. Pick one model from this chapter and apply it to something you're struggling with today. Notice how it sharpens your clarity. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment about which model you're trying first. Now let's explore Chapter 7, where we tap into a critical but underused skill, pattern recognition. Chapter 7, Pattern Recognition and Strategic Awareness. Life is not random. Strategic thinkers know this. They train themselves to see patterns in behavior, in markets, in relationships, and use those insights to make better decisions. Pattern recognition is the ability to connect seemingly unrelated dots. It's what allows experienced minds to predict shifts in culture, business, or behavior before others see it coming. Strategic awareness isn't just intelligence. It's attention sharpened by curiosity. You start noticing signals others miss. Repeated mistakes, cycles of conflict, or the early signs of opportunity. For example, a man working in logistics noticed that every time a particular season approached, delivery delays surged. While others treated it as an annual crisis, he dug into the data and identified hidden patterns, supplier bottlenecks, weather risks, and demand spikes. He proposed a new workflow months in advance. When that season returned, his region was the only one that delivered without chaos, all because he paid attention when others complained. Where most people see noise, strategic thinkers find signals. They're not lucky, they're observant. What patterns are repeating in your life right now? good or bad? Pause. Reflect. Write them down. And if this chapter gave you new awareness, be sure to subscribe, like, and drop a comment sharing what patterns you've noticed. Then move to Chapter 8, where we'll explore how to make strategic decisions in uncertainty. Chapter 8: Strategic Decision-Making in Uncertainty. Most people freeze in uncertainty. They wait for all the facts, all the signs, and all the guarantees. Strategic thinkers don't. They understand that waiting for perfect clarity is often a disguise for fear, and that real progress requires making informed moves even when the future is foggy. Uncertainty is not a signal to stop. It's a signal to slow down, observe, and decide with discipline. Strategic thinkers don't need everything to be clear. They just need enough information to calculate the odds. They ask questions like, what do I know for sure? What's the worst-case scenario? How reversible is this decision? This kind of thinking builds mental resilience and directional courage. Unlike impulsive thinkers who panic or retreat, strategic minds assess risk with calm clarity. They don't let uncertainty lead to paralysis. They understand that some of the best opportunities are hidden behind a veil of risk. For example, a group of people running a business faced unpredictable shifts in the economy. While many competitors panicked, one member of their team mapped out multiple possible scenarios and created flexible action plans for each. When the market finally turned, they weren't scrambling, they were prepared. It wasn't that they had better luck. They had better strategy. So you don't need certainty to act. You need confidence in your process. The unknown isn't the enemy. Unpreparedness is. Where in your life are you waiting too long to make a move? What decision have you postponed in fear? Pause and ask, what do I actually know? What's the smallest smart step forward? If this helped you feel braver, subscribe, like, and drop a comment below sharing what decision you're finally ready to make. Up next, we explore emotional discipline, the quiet power behind every strategic mind. Chapter 9: Emotional Discipline and Delayed Response. A single moment of emotional reaction can ruin a year's worth of strategy. Strategic thinkers understand this. They practice a subtle art, the pause. They don't suppress emotions, but they don't let them drive the car either. Emotional discipline is not about being stoic or robotic. It's about learning to feel deeply but act wisely. Emotional impulses often come fast and loud. Wisdom, on the other hand, speaks softly, and often shows up a few moments later. Strategic thinkers master delayed response. They don't let anger send emails. They don't let anxiety fuel decisions. They take the emotion, sit with it, and respond with logic guided by purpose. Over time, this habit separates the reactive from the powerful. For example, a woman in a competitive workplace was passed over for a project she felt she deserved. Her first instinct was to confront her manager. But she paused. She journaled her thoughts, reviewed the situation objectively, and addressed it later in a composed, data-driven conversation. The result? Not just the next project, but a promotion. Why? Because she didn't fight for a moment. She played for the long-term relationship. Feeling something doesn't mean you must act on it. Power is the ability to pause, reflect, and choose your moment. The next time a strong emotion rises, pause. Give yourself space. Delay your reaction and respond only when you've returned to center. If this resonated with you, subscribe, like, and drop a comment sharing how emotional discipline has changed your outcomes. In the next chapter, we'll explore how words, used strategically, become tools of quiet influence. Chapter 10: Strategic Communication and Influence. Some people speak to be heard. Strategic thinkers speak to move minds. They understand that words aren't just sounds, they're tools. Every word carries weight, and every sentence builds or breaks trust. Strategic communication is not about saying more. It's about saying what matters when it matters in the tone that matters. It's the art of tailoring your message with clarity, empathy, and intention. Strategic thinkers listen before speaking. They ask, what's the goal of this conversation? What does this person need to feel heard? What tone will open the door rather than shut it? They also use timing wisely. Sometimes silence is stronger than any argument. And sometimes one sentence spoken with calm certainty can shift the entire direction of a dialogue. For example, a man working in a multinational team noticed rising tension during a project. While others escalated complaints, he requested a one-on-one with the team leader and expressed concerns with facts and grace, not frustration. His approach dissolved defensiveness and led to swift solutions. He wasn't the loudest voice, but he was the most impactful. Strategic influence doesn't come from volume. It comes from intentional clarity. Speak not to impress, but to align. Before your next conversation, ask, what outcome do I want from this? Shape your words to reflect that purpose. And if this helps you rethink how you communicate, subscribe, like, and comment what new communication habit you'll try. Coming up, we dive into adaptability, when to hold, when to pivot, and when to completely shift course. Chapter 11: The Role of Adaptability. The most dangerous words in strategy are, "This is how we've always done it." In a changing world, survival belongs not to the rigid, but to the adaptable. Strategic thinkers are not married to their methods. They are committed to their vision but flexible about how they get there. They understand that every season of life may require a new version of them. New habits, new approaches, new perspectives. Adaptability is not reaction. It is calculated adjustment. It's knowing when to press forward and when to pause. It's recognizing that clinging to a broken plan is not persistence. It's self-sabotage. Flexibility doesn't mean weakness. It means you've matured beyond your ego's need to be right. For example, a group of people launched a new service. Customer feedback was underwhelming. One team clung to the original plan. Another made strategic tweaks based on what they learned. 1 year later, the adaptive team tripled their results, because they moved with the times instead of against them. Adapting isn't failure. Refusing to adapt is. Evolving your approach is a sign of strategic maturity, not inconsistency. What part of your life or business needs adaptation? What are you resisting just because change feels uncomfortable? Reflect. Adjust. And if this chapter gave you clarity, subscribe, like, and comment what shift you're finally ready to make. Next, we explore how understanding power and leverage can multiply your results without multiplying your effort. Chapter 12: Understanding Power and Leverage. Success is rarely about how hard you work. It's about where and how you apply your energy. Strategic thinkers don't just hustle. They use leverage to multiply their results. Leverage is the art of doing more with less. Could be knowledge, relationships, systems, platforms, money, or even time. Strategic people don't only focus on force. They focus on positioning. Power isn't about domination. It's about direction. They ask, how can I make this easier, faster, more effective? Rather than relying solely on personal effort, they find ways to amplify impact. They understand that true power lies not in being everywhere, but in knowing where to push to create maximum movement. For example, a group of individuals were each trying to promote their separate services manually. One person built a simple system that automated communication, partnered with others, and created a digital product. The same amount of effort produced 10x the result. Not because they worked harder, but because they worked smarter using leverage. Don't ask, what more can I do? Ask, what will multiply what I already do? Identify one area of your life where you're applying force instead of using leverage. Is it your time? Your voice? Your income? Think bigger. If this sparked a shift in your thinking, subscribe, like, and drop a comment on what kind of leverage you'll start building today. In the next chapter, we explore how to play the long game in relationships, because strategy applies to people too. Chapter 13: Playing the long game in relationships. Many people invest in results. Strategic thinkers invest in relationships, because trust and reputation are currencies more powerful than credentials or capital. Relationships are not transactions. Strategic thinkers don't burn bridges for temporary wins. They understand that alliances, Mutual respect and long-term loyalty often determine success far more than talent or speed. They ask themselves, how do I want this person to remember me 5 years from now? Not just, how can they help me today? Strategic relationships are rooted in reciprocity, patience, and emotional intelligence. They give before they need. They listen before they speak. And they keep people's dignity intact, even in conflict. For example, a woman led a project that failed. Instead of blaming the team, she stood by them. Years later, one of those teammates became a decision-maker at a top firm and offered her a new opportunity based on trust built long ago. While others chase clout, strategic thinkers build equity in people. Your network isn't your net worth. Your reputation within that network is. Think of one relationship you've neglected and one you want to protect long-term. Reach out. Invest. If this shifted your approach, subscribe, like, and comment with a relationship strategy you're committing to. Next, let's explore the wisdom hidden in history, because no great strategist ignores the past. Chapter 14. Learning from history and other strategists. Every problem you're facing has been faced before, in a different form by different people in different eras. Strategic thinkers study history not just to memorize facts, but to harvest principles. Smart people learn from their mistakes. Strategic people learn from the mistakes of others. History is filled with decisions, some brilliant, some disastrous, that shaped nations, companies, and lives. When you study the patterns, you become harder to manipulate and quicker to adapt. The lessons of visionary leaders, resilient groups, and wise strategists throughout history reveal truths about timing, alliances, resistance, ego, and endurance. Strategic thinkers reflect often: what worked, what didn't, and why. For example, a man was leading a growing team and began experiencing internal resistance. Instead of reacting with punishment or force, he studied similar situations from past leadership models. He realized the issue wasn't discipline, it was unheard voices. He adjusted his style, rebuilt trust, and strengthened the team. History wasn't just informative, it was instructive. So don't just live life forward. Understand it backward. Wisdom leaves clues. Study one historical strategy story this week. Whether from a business case, social movement, or conflict. Ask yourself, what principle applies to my life now? If this chapter added depth to your thinking, subscribe, like, and comment your favorite lesson from history. Next, we explore a trap that kills strategy faster than failure. Overthinking. Chapter 15. Avoiding the trap of overthinking. Thinking deeply is a strength, but thinking endlessly is a weakness. Strategic thinkers don't paralyze themselves with options. They know when to pause and when to move. Overthinking masquerades as intelligence, but it's often rooted in fear. Fear of being wrong, of being judged, of losing control. Strategic thinking is different. It gathers the right amount of information, weighs the risk, and then decides. Analysis is helpful. Obsession is destructive. Strategic people understand that progress doesn't come from perfect clarity. It comes from intentional momentum. They refine as they go. They make space for feedback. And they never confuse motion with meaninglessness. For example, a group of people had the perfect business plan. They spent 2 years adjusting it. Meanwhile, another team launched a basic version, tested it, and iterated based on feedback. By the time the first team made their move, the market had already moved on. Perfection became their prison. So know that you don't need the perfect move. You need a clear, courageous first step. Where are you stuck in your head? Write it down. Decide on the next best move, not the final one. And if this chapter hit home, subscribe, like, and drop a comment sharing how you're breaking your overthinking loop. In the next chapter, we'll help you build your own strategic plan, so you can apply everything you've learned intentionally. Chapter 16. Creating a personal strategic plan. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint. Why live your life without one? Strategic thinkers don't wander. They design. A personal strategic plan is your blueprint for decision-making. It gives you direction, filters your opportunities, and defines what success actually means to you. It's not a rigid schedule. It's a flexible framework aligned with your values, long-term goals, and ideal lifestyle. Strategic planning involves 5 core questions. What do I ultimately want? Why does it matter to me? What are the key pillars of my life? Career, health, relationships, purpose? Where am I now in each area? What are the top 2 to 3 strategic moves I can make in the next year? For example, a woman working a draining job paused to create her life strategy. She realized she didn't want just income, she wanted impact and autonomy. Over the next 18 months, she took evening courses, started freelancing, and gradually transitioned into a career that aligned with her deeper vision. She didn't quit impulsively. She built an exit with intention. If you don't have a plan, you'll end up a part of someone else's. Strategic living begins with self-direction. Block out time this week. Reflect deeply and map out your personal strategy. If you're already doing this, share your process in the comments. And if this chapter helped bring clarity, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Next, let's dive into the daily practice of strategic thinking. Chapter 17. How to practice strategic thinking daily. Strategy isn't a one-time act. It's a way of thinking, seeing, and responding that must be trained daily, like a muscle. Strategic thinking becomes second nature when it becomes a habit. It starts with awareness. Every day offers choices, and every choice shapes your momentum. Build rituals that sharpen your strategic lens. Ask, what matters most today? Reflect, what did I learn from yesterday's choices? Anticipate, what's coming next week I can prepare for today? Even short moments of reflection, 10 minutes of journaling, one tough question, or a morning walk, can train your brain to prioritize, analyze, and strategize with more clarity. For example, a man transitioning into leadership spent 5 minutes every evening writing down what went well, what didn't, and what decisions he would make differently. Within 3 months, his problem-solving speed and clarity had drastically improved, not because he worked harder but because he thought smarter. Consistency beats intensity. Strategic progress isn't about massive action. It's about intentional habits. Start small. Pick one strategic habit and commit for 7 days. Then share your results in the comments. And if this inspired you to level up your daily discipline, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. Next, we explore a deeper layer, the ethics of strategy. Chapter 18. The ethics of strategy. Just because something works doesn't mean it's right. Strategy without ethics is manipulation. With ethics, it becomes leadership. Strategic thinking must be anchored in values. Otherwise, it's just cleverness without conscience. Power without integrity corrodes trust. Success without responsibility breeds destruction. Strategic thinkers ask, what is the right move, not just the smart move? They understand that the highest form of influence is not just effectiveness, but ethical alignment. Ethical strategy means making decisions you can live with long-term, leading with honesty even when it costs, avoiding tactics that hurt others to get ahead. For example, a group of people competing for limited resources discovered a loophole they could exploit to eliminate rivals. One woman refused. She took the harder path, transparent, fair, and slower. But her integrity earned respect, and when policies changed, she was elevated. The others were exposed and removed. Integrity is strategy. Reputation is leverage. When trust is your currency, every move gains value. Audit your recent decisions. Were they effective and ethical? Where can you lead with more principle? If this spoke to your conscience, subscribe, like, and comment what one ethical value you won't compromise. Up next, we discuss the most common mistakes strategic thinkers avoid. Chapter 19. Common strategic mistakes to avoid. Even great thinkers stumble. But strategic thinkers learn fast and avoid falling into the same traps twice. Here are 3 of the most common traps. Short-sightedness. Making decisions based only on immediate gain. Emotional decision-making. letting pride, fear, or anger guide your moves. Rigidity, refusing to adapt even when the strategy clearly isn't working. Other errors include overplanning with no execution, copying other strategies without personalization, and chasing too many goals at once. For example, a man started 5 projects at once, thinking more was better. None succeeded. His competitor focused on one, gave it full attention, and built momentum. Strategy is about focus, not just ambition. So doing more is not the same as doing better. Avoid the noise. Sharpen your moves. What mistake from this list have you made recently? What will you do differently now? Reflect and share in the comments. And if this gave you clarity, subscribe, like, and comment below. And finally, we will explore how to truly lead your life through strategy. Becoming the strategic leader of your life. The most important battlefield is not the boardroom. It's your mind. And the greatest leader you'll ever follow is yourself. Becoming a strategic leader isn't about controlling others. It's about commanding your thoughts, choices, and actions with clarity. It's choosing purpose over popularity, direction over distraction, and legacy over laziness. A strategic life is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. You don't need a title to lead. The most powerful leaders are those who influence with integrity, make decisions with vision, and move with calm, clear focus, even in chaos. For example, a woman who had every reason to give up, limited resources, lack of support, repeated failure, chose to study herself, her habits, her patterns. Over time, she became a master of her energy, her focus, and her time. She didn't rise by accident. She rose by design. So I put it to you that you don't need more time. You need more strategy. Leadership begins the moment you stop living on autopilot. What will you now lead with, fear or focus? Reflect. Then rise. And if this audiobook empowered you, subscribe, like, and leave a comment sharing your biggest takeaway. But don't go yet. Let's close with a final word, a reflection and a charge for your journey forward. The strategic life is yours. You've come a long way. From defining what strategic thinking truly is, to shaping your vision, strengthening your emotional discipline, and learning to navigate uncertainty, you've taken a journey into your own potential. This isn't just about being smarter. It's about living wiser. It's about no longer wasting years solving the wrong problems. It's about becoming the kind of person who moves with intention, clarity, and quiet power. Remember, strategy is not about control. It's about clarity. It's not about being the loudest. It's about knowing exactly where you're going and why. How it's your move. Think boldly. Act wisely. And never forget, you are the strategist of your own life. If this audiobook helped shift your mindset or spark new ambition, please subscribe, like, and drop a comment with your key lesson. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, keep thinking, keep growing, and lead with strategy. Thank you for listening.